When my girlfriend wanted to explore dating others, she said, "I'm going to date around, but don't you dare move on. I might come back." I blocked her everywhere. Now she's hiring fake fiancés to make me jealous. 3 years with Brooke felt like building something solid, the kind of relationship where you actually discussed mortgage rates and weekend plans without irony. I'm Ethan, 29, senior accountant at Sterling Financial Group, pulling down $85,000 annually with another $15,000 in consulting work. The type of guy who maintains detailed spreadsheets for our shared budget and genuinely enjoys planning our financial future together. Brooke was a marketing coordinator at a small local agency when we met, excited about campaigns for family restaurants and nonprofit fundraisers. She made $38,000 and was grateful when I covered most of our expenses, understanding it as an investment in our shared future. Everything changed when she landed the position at Zenith Creative downtown, a trendy agency handling luxury brands and overfunded startups. Within 2 weeks, her entire wardrobe transformed. Goodbye sensible cardigans, hello crop tops, and designer jeans she called networking investments. Her vocabulary shifted too, suddenly peppered with phrases like authentic brand experience and disruptive creativity solutions. But the real change was how she talked about our relationship, like it was outdated software she'd been tolerating. "Everyone at work is so free-spirited," she'd gush over dinner, scrolling through coworkers' Instagram stories of bottomless brunches and Napa trips. "They're all about experiencing life and not limiting themselves to just one person forever." I'd ask about her day, thinking this was new job excitement that would settle down. I was spectacularly wrong. The conversations became pointed, with Brooke dropping comments about how traditional relationships were outdated and how her work friends thought monogamy limited personal growth. When I'd suggest weekend getaways or looking at condos, she'd get this glazed expression like I was speaking a foreign language. "God, Ethan, you're always planning something. Can't we just see where life takes us?" Life was taking her straight into Derek Blackwood's office. Her new boss, 34, divorced, who drove a Tesla and wore designer sneakers to client meetings. Derek had this whole disruptor entrepreneur vibe Brooke found magnetic. She'd come home talking about his business philosophies, networking strategies, weekend adventures with his crew of successful 20-somethings who treated dating like a hobby. "Derek says most people settle because they're afraid to explore their options," she mentioned while I reviewed our budget spreadsheet. "He thinks people who get serious too young miss out on discovering who they really are." I looked up from comparing high-yield savings accounts for our emergency fund. "What do you think about that?" "I think maybe he has a point." That response made my stomach drop, but I returned to researching interest rates, filing away her comment for later analysis. 3 months into her new job, Brooke came home with that look, the one that means everything's about to change. "We need to talk," she said, sitting at our kitchen table where we'd planned 1,000 domestic moments. I saved my spreadsheet and gave her my full attention, expecting work stress or friend drama. "I've been thinking about us, about what we want from life, and I think we should explore being more open." "Open how?" I asked, though I suspected where this was heading. "I want to date around, experience life with different people, see what's out there before we make permanent decisions." The rehearsed quality of her speech was almost impressive. "What about us? What about the 3 years we've built? We can still be us, just not exclusively. You could date other people too." But the way she said it made clear she'd decided I wouldn't want to, that I'd wait like a loyal dog while she explored options. I need to figure out who I am outside of being Ethan's girlfriend. This job has opened my eyes to possibilities I never considered. I asked the question I already knew the answer to. "Is there someone specific?" Her pause said everything. "Derek and I have great chemistry, and he's been encouraging about me expanding my horizons. Derek and you have been discussing our relationship. He's helped me realize that settling down at 25 might limit my potential for growth." Settling down with me. She meant 3 years of love reduced to settling. "How long have you been talking to your boss about our relationship?" "It's not like that, Ethan. Derek just gives good advice about life and career development." I pulled out my phone and opened her text messages, which she'd left unlocked on the counter. "Career development," I said, scrolling through weeks of late-night conversations with Derek. "Is that what we're calling this?" Her face went white, realizing I'd seen everything. The messages revealed the real story. Complaints about feeling trapped in a boring relationship, discussions about my obsession with planning, Derek's philosophy that people who get serious too young miss their best years, and detailed conversations about my limitations compared to Derek's ambition and spontaneity. Ethan, I can explain, these go back 6 weeks. Brooke, you've been planning this while pretending everything was fine. I didn't want to hurt you. I wanted to be honest about what I needed. You wanted to keep me as backup while exploring options with Derek. The truth hung between us like smoke. It's not cheating if we're going to be open anyway, she said, using Derek's exact phrase from her messages. Besides, nothing physical has happened yet, like it was inevitable. I closed my laptop and looked at this woman I'd spent 3 years loving, planning with, discussing baby names with, and realized I was looking at a stranger. So, you want me to sit here like a placeholder while you date your boss? I'm proposing we both explore what's out there and see where it leads. Maybe we'll realize what we have is special, or maybe we'll discover we want different things. What we have is past tense. She'd mentally checked out weeks ago. And if I'm not interested in dating others, if I want to work on what we built. She looked genuinely confused. Then I guess you'll wait and see what I decide. The casual entitlement, expecting me to pause my emotional life while she shopped for something better, told me everything about how she saw me and how little respect she had for what I'd been cherishing while she planned its demolition. That night, after Brooke left to think about everything at Ashley's place, I did something I'd never done before. I disappeared completely, not just physically, but digitally, methodically, like deleting a corrupted file from every backup drive. My professional background had taught me the value of systematic approaches. As a senior accountant, I understood leverage, risk assessment, and strategic planning. I also understood how to make problems disappear cleanly and completely. I blocked her on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, even Venmo, where she'd been requesting money for coffee dates that were probably with Derek. Changed all my social media to private, updated my relationship status to single, and removed every photo of us from 3 years together. If she wanted to explore life without commitment, she could do it without access to mine. I even blocked her number, which felt nuclear but necessary, like cutting off a credit card before someone could rack up more charges. By morning, I'd essentially erased her ability to monitor my reaction to her exploration plan. The panic started within 12 hours, and it was absolutely spectacular to witness secondhand. My roommate Jake told me she called our apartment landline, something she'd never used in 3 years, asking if I was okay because I wasn't responding to messages. She tried calling from different numbers, created new Instagram accounts to check my stories, even messaged my coworkers on LinkedIn asking if I was going through something because I disappeared from social media. Within 48 hours, the desperation escalated to legitimate stalking behavior. Ashley called me directly, which was weird since we barely knew each other beyond polite hellos at group events. "Hey Ethan, Brooke's really worried about you. She thinks maybe you had some kind of breakdown because you blocked her everywhere." I almost laughed at the projection. "I'm fine, Ashley, just moving on like she suggested." Moving on, but you guys are just taking a break while she figures things out. Taking a break. That's what she told everyone. Not that she wanted to date her boss while keeping me as backup, but that we were on some mutual break while she figured things out. Classic Brooke, controlling the narrative to make herself look thoughtful rather than selfish. "We're not taking a break," I corrected. She wanted to date other people. I'm respecting her decision by removing myself from the equation entirely. Silence. Then Ashley's voice, much smaller. "That's not what she said. She told everyone you needed space to think about the relationship." The real story was spreading faster than Brooke could control it, and she was discovering that her version of events didn't hold up under scrutiny. Thursday evening, I was at my usual gym when she appeared like some kind of designer-dress stalker, pretending to be there for a workout. Problem was, Brooke despised exercise and hadn't voluntarily entered a gym since college sorority requirements. She was wearing brand new workout clothes with tags practically still attached, fumbling with equipment she'd never used, clearly hoping for an accidental encounter. When she spotted me doing deadlifts, she waved with fake casualness and started walking over. I grabbed my stuff and left through the back exit without acknowledging her existence. Later, I heard from front desk staff that she'd asked about my membership schedule, trying to figure out when I'd be there. They told her that information wasn't available to non-members, which probably frustrated her more than my complete indifference. Meanwhile, at work, I was getting secondhand updates about her situation through Tony, my cubicle neighbor, who somehow knew everything about everyone through his extensive social network. "Your ex is having a catastrophic week," he mentioned during lunch with obvious entertainment. "My girlfriend works at that trendy agency downtown. Says your girl's been a complete mess since Derek basically ghosted her." Apparently, Derek had gotten what he wanted: easy access to someone already emotionally invested, and promptly moved on to his next target. Brooke had thought she was special, that Derek saw relationship potential. Reality was, he'd seen an opportunity for consequence-free fun, with someone naive enough to blow up her stable relationship for his attention. The agency drama was absolutely spectacular. According to Tony's girlfriend, Brooke had been telling coworkers about her evolution and exploring authentic connections, making herself sound like some relationship pioneer. When Derek started obviously pursuing the new intern, Brooke's public meltdown became office entertainment. She actually confronted him in front of everyone, Tony reported with obvious glee. Asked him about their connection and future plans. Dude just looked at her like she was insane and said, "I thought we were just having fun." Absolutely brutal. Her carefully planned exploration was crumbling faster than a house of cards in a hurricane. The woman who thought she was trading up for someone more exciting discovered she'd been nothing more than temporary entertainment. By week 2, even her new work friends were avoiding her drama, exhausted by her complicated situation with Derek and her confusing feelings about me. The desperation peaked when she showed up at my apartment building, waiting in the lobby like some kind of unhinged stalker. Building security called me at work to report that a woman claiming to be my girlfriend was demanding access to my unit. "She seems pretty upset, Mr. Hayes. Says there's been some misunderstanding and she needs to explain something important." "She's not my girlfriend," I told them calmly. "Please ask her to leave the premises." That evening, I found 17 missed calls from unknown numbers and voicemails I deleted without listening to. The final desperate attempt came through our mutual friend Mike. "Dude, Brooke's completely freaking out. She says you disappeared and won't talk to her. What the hell happened?" I explained briefly. "She wanted to date around. I decided to let her. End of story." "She told everyone you guys were taking a break," Mike said, confused. "Said you needed space to think about things. She can tell people whatever helps her sleep at night. We're done." 3 weeks later, I heard the full aftermath through the same friend network. Derek had moved on completely. Brooke's work reputation was damaged from the public drama, and she was struggling with the reality that her bold exploration had left her with exactly nothing. No Derek, no backup plan, and no way to contact the stable relationship she'd discarded for a chance at something more exciting. While Brooke was discovering that her exciting new life wasn't quite as advertised, I was quietly building something I didn't even realize I'd been missing: actual peace. The first week without her constant drama felt like finally taking off shoes that had been too tight for years. No more managing her moods. No more budget discussions that turned into arguments about her investment pieces. No more walking on eggshells around her latest work crisis or social media obsession. I started seeing a therapist, Dr. Reeves, something I'd been considering for months but kept putting off, because Brooke thought therapy was for people who couldn't handle their problems. Within 3 sessions, Dr. Reeves helped me realize how much emotional labor I'd been doing, constantly anticipating Brooke's needs, managing her reactions, smoothing over her conflicts with friends and family. "You've been functioning as her emotional support system, financial manager, and crisis counselor," she observed during our 3rd session. "When did you last focus on your own needs and goals?" I couldn't remember. Meanwhile, Tony was feeding me updates about Brooke's spectacular implosion through his girlfriend's insider access to agency gossip. Derek had indeed ghosted her completely after she'd started showing up at his office unannounced, sending him lengthy texts about their connection and asking coworkers about his weekend plans. She went full Fatal Attraction, Tony reported with obvious entertainment. Started parking outside his building, following him to lunch spots, even showed up at his gym. Dude had to get HR involved. The irony was perfect. The woman who had accused me of being boring and clingy had become obsessively clingy with someone who saw her as completely disposable. Her work performance suffered as she became consumed with Derek drama, missing client meetings, showing up late, spending work hours crafting texts to him that he wasn't reading. She got demoted from the luxury accounts to handling social media for a pet grooming chain, Tony's girlfriend reported. Went from photographing million-dollar penthouses to posting about dog haircuts. She's absolutely devastated. But the real transformation was happening in my own life. I joined a hiking club through work, something I'd always wanted to do, but Brooke had dismissed as sweaty and boring. Turns out spending Saturday mornings on mountain trails with people who actually enjoyed nature was incredibly refreshing. No one was checking Instagram every 5 minutes or complaining about the lack of designer coffee shops at trailheads. I reconnected with college friends I'd gradually lost touch with during the Brooke years, realizing how much I'd isolated myself to accommodate her social preferences and financial demands. My buddy Marcus, who I hadn't seen in over a year, was direct about it. "Dude, you seem completely different. Relaxed. I was honestly worried about you for a while there. Worried about how you used to stress about everything. Money, plans, whether Brooke would be happy with whatever you'd arranged. You were always managing her reactions instead of just living your life." He was absolutely right. I'd been so focused on keeping Brooke satisfied that I'd forgotten what my own satisfaction felt like. My savings account was growing for the first time in years without her constant financial emergencies and investment pieces. I was sleeping better, eating better, actually enjoying my work again, instead of seeing it as just a way to fund someone else's lifestyle fantasies. 2 months after our breakup, I heard through Mike that Brooke had been fired from Zenith Creative for creating a hostile work environment and unprofessional conduct regarding workplace relationships. Translation: her Derek obsession and subsequent meltdown had made her a liability the agency couldn't afford to keep around. At 27, she'd moved back in with her parents in suburban Ohio, the same small town she'd spent years talking about escaping. The woman who'd criticized my lack of ambition was now living in her childhood bedroom, working part-time at a local marketing firm for probably half what she'd made at Zenith. But the most satisfying part was learning about her desperate attempts to monitor my life from a distance. Since I'd blocked her everywhere, she'd been using fake LinkedIn accounts to check my professional updates, trying to understand how I seemed so much happier without her. "She keeps asking mutual friends about you," Mike mentioned during a chance encounter at our old coffee shop. "Wants to know if you're dating anyone, if you seem depressed, if you ever mention missing her." "What do you tell her?" "The truth. That you seem like a completely different person, happier, more confident, like someone who finally got rid of something that was weighing them down." Mike paused, studying my face. "She expected you to fall apart without her, didn't she?" "She expected me to wait around while she explored better options," I corrected. When I didn't, it probably shattered her entire worldview about her own importance. The hiking club was where I met Grace, a veterinarian who appreciated quiet Sunday mornings and actually contributed to conversations about more than just her own drama and career aspirations. Someone who understood that real relationships required mutual effort and respect rather than one person funding another's fantasy lifestyle. "Your ex sounds exhausting," Grace said, after I'd shared the basic story during a particularly beautiful mountain hike. "How did you manage that stress for 3 years?" I thought I was being supportive. Turns out I was just enabling someone who saw my stability as boring rather than valuable. "Her loss," Grace said simply, and meant it. 3 months into dating Grace, I posted one subtle photo of us at a wine tasting. Nothing dramatic, just 2 people clearly happy together. The reaction from Brooke's spy network was immediate and catastrophic. Within hours, Ashley was calling to report that Brooke had seen the post and completely lost it, spending the evening crying and drinking wine while stalking Grace's Instagram. "She keeps saying you moved on too fast, that 3 years should mean more," Ashley reported. I told her 3 years should have meant more to her before she decided to explore other options. 8 months later, Grace and I were at our mutual friend Mike's wedding when I spotted Brooke across the reception hall. Something was immediately off about the whole picture. She was wearing a dress that probably cost more than her current monthly salary, accompanied by some guy in an ill-fitting rental tux who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else on Earth. But the real giveaway was the massive engagement ring she was displaying with the subtlety of a neon billboard, making sure everyone could see it while she laughed just a little too loudly at her fiancé's obviously forced jokes. Grace noticed my expression change. "That's her, isn't it?" "Yeah, and she's putting on quite a performance." We watched from across the room as Brooke worked the crowd, making sure everyone saw her ring and heard about her amazing new relationship with Brad, who she introduced as a successful entrepreneur, despite the fact that he clearly had no idea what anyone was talking about when they asked about his business. When she spotted me, the fake smile faltered for just a moment before she cranked it up to 11, whispering something to Brad and pointing in our direction. They started making their way over with the determination of people on a mission. "Ethan!" Brooke's voice was pitched just loud enough for nearby tables to hear. "I was hoping you'd be here. I wanted you to meet Brad, my fiancé." Brad extended a sweaty hand and delivered what was clearly a rehearsed line. "Great to finally meet, Ethan. Brooks told me so much about you." The poor guy looked like he was being held hostage. Grace stepped forward with genuine warmth. "Congratulations on your engagement. When's the wedding?" Brooks' confident mask slipped slightly. "Oh, we're still planning. Brad's just so spontaneous, aren't you, honey?" Brad nodded with the enthusiasm of someone reading cue cards. "Yeah, totally spontaneous. That's me." 20 minutes later, after Brad had excused himself for the third bathroom break in 10 minutes, Brooke cornered me by the bar while Grace was chatting with other guests. The confident facade crumbled instantly. "Ethan, please, I need to talk to you privately." "I don't think that's appropriate, Brooke." "5 minutes, please, I'm begging you." Against my better judgment, I followed her to a quiet corner of the venue, where she immediately broke down completely. The fake engagement ring came off her finger as she started crying. "It's all fake, Ethan. Brad's an actor I hired through Craigslist. I thought if you saw me with someone else, someone who looked successful, maybe you'd realize what you lost." The desperation in her voice was genuinely painful to witness. "I've been watching your life through other people, seeing how happy you look with Grace, and I can't handle it. You were supposed to miss me. You were supposed to realize that what we had was special." "What we had," I said quietly, "was you taking me for granted while shopping around for something better. When that didn't work out, you expected me to be your fallback option. I made a mistake. I was stupid and young, and I threw away the best thing that ever happened to me." She was grabbing my arm now, mascara streaking down her cheeks. "Derek was using me. The job was terrible. I lost everything trying to chase some fantasy life that never existed. I'm sorry you went through that, but it doesn't change anything between us." "Why not? We had 3 years together. Doesn't that count for something?" "It counted for everything until you decided it wasn't enough. You don't get to come back now that your other options didn't work out." That's when Grace appeared beside us, and I braced myself for awkwardness or jealousy. Instead, she simply handed me a glass of water and stood quietly supportive. "You must be Brooke," Grace said calmly. "I'm Grace. Ethan's told me about your history together." Brooke looked between us, probably expecting some kind of territorial confrontation. When Grace remained perfectly composed, it seemed to deflate her completely. "I should go," Brooke whispered, putting the fake ring back on. "Brad's probably wondering where I am." As she walked away, Grace turned to me with something that looked like admiration. "That was handled perfectly. You were kind but firm, sympathetic but boundaried. I'm actually impressed." Instead of being threatened by my ex's breakdown, Grace was proud of how I'd managed the situation. The difference between someone secure in themselves versus someone who needed constant validation was remarkable. 6 months later, Grace and I were engaged for real. A year after that, we were married in a small ceremony surrounded by people who genuinely wanted to be there, celebrating something built on mutual respect rather than manipulation and backup plans. The final chapter came as a text message that Grace happened to see first while we were planning our honeymoon. "Unknown number. I heard you're engaged. I hope you know what a mistake you're making. She'll never love you the way I did." Grace showed me the screenshot later, laughing. "I deleted it before you could see it. Figured you didn't need that energy in your life." She was absolutely right. While Brooke was still trying to insert herself into a life that had moved on without her, I was building something real with someone who understood that love isn't about keeping backup plans or exploring options. It's about choosing someone every day and meaning it. Grace never made me feel like I needed to prove my worth or compete for her attention. She chose me the same way I chose her, completely and without reservation. That's what partnership actually looks like when both people show up fully committed, rather than one person waiting in the wings while the other shops around for something better.